Okay, welcome back to video 2 in this playlist of the Asteroid rebuild, the JavaScript version. This is the single player rebuild that we're doing. More information about that in video 1. Up to now, we've managed to get our ship where we can move it with the WASD keys and it follows the direction of our mouse. In this video, we're going to deal with the shots that are fired from the ship and get them in place ready for the collision detection with the asteroids. So, let's get started. Okay, so as we did with the ship class, what we're going to do is create a shot class. So we'll just call that shot.js, and then we'll create a class in here. There we go, and we'll give it a constructor where we pass in some parameters. Very good. Now we know we're going to be showing the shot, so as in the other class, we're going to set up a method using the prototype. Is it function? Yeah. Okay. Cool. And we're also going to have a move method. The difference with the move method on the shot though is that it's not controlled by the player. As soon as the shot's generated, that's it. It's in the hands of the shot to manage itself to go forward with its movement. But we have our move function anyway. Very good. Now, if we think about the game, in fact we'll go back to this version here. When I click the button, the shot is basically generated where the ship is. So we have a start position, and the direction the shot goes off in is the direction the ship is facing. So we have our initial position and we have the direction, the vector of the shot. So we basically have the two things we need to build the shot. So in our constructor, if we could pass in our ship position and our ship angle, and basically we can just transfer them across to the shot. The only difference is the shot's vector will be multiplied more than just the speed of the ship, because obviously it's going to move faster than the ship. But other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. So in here we can pass in ship position as a parameter and ship angle as a parameter, and we'll just set them as this dot. Now because these are vectors, we don't have to use the create vector. We can just copy the existing vectors that's brought in, and this dot velocity equals ship angle. So remember that velocity is a vector that determines a direction and a magnitude. So what we can do is we can say this dot velocity dot so we just multiply it by 2, that will give us 4, and if that's too much, we'll come back to that later. So that gives us our position and our velocity for the shot. So now we can just draw it, and so we just say this let's do a point. This dot position dot x, this dot position dot y. Just draw a point at that position. The one thing we have to do though automatically is add the move point on every frame. So again, similar to the ship class, we can just take the it's not the same I suppose, because we're not passing in parameters. We already have our velocity. We multiply by 2 here. Yeah, let's do that. Change anything here. Actually no, I don't want to do that. I want to change it there. Okay, so that's our shot class. So we now need to implement that. So that means we need to put it in here. And then if we go to our sketch, so a shot is fired when we click the mouse. You may have seen here we had this mouse pressed function, so I'm just going to copy that. So function mouse pressed, so it's shots. Now what is shots? Shots is an array of shots, or a collection of them. In the same way that ship is one ship, shots is a collection. So we're going to set it up as an array to begin with, but it's an empty one. But then we're going to say we add to it using the push command. That's how you push onto the end. You can see there, appends new elements to an array. So shots.push, and then we're going to create a new shot object with the current ship position and the current ship angle. And they were the two things we passed in to the constructor. So this uses ship position and ship angle and adds it onto the array. So the thing is, it adds it onto the array, but as of yet there's nothing to make that render on the screen. So we need to show the shot, but we can't just go shots.show, because shots is a collection, it's not an object, so this would error. So we need to extract each shot from the shots array and then run the show method. So how can we do that? Let's do a simple for each loop. Let s equals naught while s is less than shots.length s plus plus. So this is just a way of looping through an array. Now now we can say shots s. That's now the object within the array. So let me run this. Probably error. Oh, it has an error, but when I click the button I get an error. This .velocity.mult is not a function. So I'm wondering whether that it's obviously this ship angle is just a value, isn't it? It's not an actual vector, which I was hoping for. So let me see how I did it in the other one. The position, I just create the vector and create from angle. Okay, so I did that a bit wrong. Let me just copy these. Okay, so let's have a look. So this top position is create vector, the current ship position x and y. Well, that's straightforward because we're just getting the position of the ship and initializing that in the shot. But here's an interesting one. This velocity, the vector, the direction and the amount it's moving, is from the angle of the ship angle. We create a vector from that, and then we multiply that by 3, which gives us our 3 times speed. Remember, the ship we set up only had a 2 times speed, so this is running at a 3 times speed, and obviously we can set that to whatever we want. Again, power-ups of the ship could be passed in as well and could determine how fast those shots go, but you know, that's for a future video or a future playlist. So that's our velocity. So let's see if that works. Okay, we have no errors, but we have no shots, so I'm wondering whether they're rendering correctly. So let's just set some colours up. Let's set it as a white stroke. No. Is it adding it to the array? Let's do a console log here. Let's see what's actually in the shots array. So yeah, it is adding shots to the array. You can see every time I click, that value goes up. So there are shots in the array. So I'm assuming this will print an object every time. Yeah, I presume that's right. So shots show, prototype show function stroke 255, and we want to point at this current position. Show point at this position. Let's put a stroke. We'll put a stroke weight in, but I don't think that's the issue here. In fact, I don't know whether that will even make a difference. No, that's just done it to the ship, so that's no good. So let's get rid of that. So we know it's coming here. Let's just console log this dot position. Yeah, so it's creating a collection of different shots at different places. None of them are moving. But it's definitely creating an array. So why is the point this position X, this position Y? Why is that not working? Well, okay, let's do some more debugging. We know, so if I just do .x, yeah, so there's 4 different shots now, 5 different shots, 6 different shots. So it definitely is rendering the shot values. The stroke it's set to white, and then we draw a point at that point. So what am I missing? You know, the stroke weight is not an issue. So how did I call this show? Okay, yeah, it gets a bit complicated in a minute because of we have to remove the shots, but for now we're just looping through the array, and then we do shots show. That looks fine to me. Oh, hang on. No, they're there. Oh, they're there. See, as I click, it's leaving them. Oh, silly, silly, silly. So it is working. Okay. What it's not doing is moving them, and that's because we haven't set them to move here. So let's call the move. Oh, well, let's call the move function here. Reload that, and is that working? Let me zoom in. I can't tell if that's. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. How much can I zoom in? There. Yeah. You can see them moving, but obviously they're too small. They're way too small, so we need to address that. So we need to make that stroke weight, don't we? But I'm going to put that inside a push. Just remember to press escape. Push and pop, because remember when we tried this a minute ago, it messed with the ship. So now we'll do stroke weight 4. There we go. Check that. Okay, so I've just noticed that it is coming from the middle of the ship, and that you can see through. So we need to fill out the ship with black rather than leaving it like transparent. But I'm wondering whether the shot should actually come from the nozzle as well. Oh, we did fill the ship. Oh, so the reason why we're seeing the shots is because I draw the ship before the shots. If I put it afterwards, then it should draw it over the shots. Yeah, so you can't see the shots inside the ship now. Just don't like the fact it's coming from the middle. I'd like it to come from the point, but you know, we'll come back to that later. Anyway, so our shots are now being fired, but they're going on forever and ever, and they will. We need to put a timeout in there, so we need to give them a life cycle or a lifetime. So you may have noticed in the other one we set this dot, and we're going to set it to the number of frames that it can run for. And so when do I do it in the move function? Okay, so let me copy this. So every movement takes off one off the lifespan. If the lifespan now has got to 0, if it's used them up, we return false. Otherwise we add the velocity to the position as we did before, and we return true. So the reason why we're returning a value on the function is, we go back here, rather than simply saying shots.move, we can now check whether that function returns true or false. So we can say if shots.move, in other words, if it still exists, we can do something, otherwise we can do something else. So let me copy this. Okay, so if shots.move, then we run this edge method. We'll come back to that in a minute. So we can show the shot, otherwise we remove the shot from that array. That's what splice means. However, if we're going to remove items from an array in a loop, running through the loop from 0 upwards is not a good idea, because as you delete items, things move into place and you start to lose track of where you are. So it's best to run backwards, and it doesn't interfere with the order then if you have to delete anything. So it's quite easy. You just change the way you do this. While s is greater than or equal to 0, so instead of s++, it's s minus because we're going down 1, and that should be fine. So now they should only last for 120 frames and then they disappear. So there we go. See, doesn't matter how many we fire, they will eventually disappear. Brilliant. So the lifespan of the shot is now sorted. So there's just one more thing we need to look at, and it's something that actually affects all 3 classes: the ship, the shot, and the asteroid, and that's this edge thing. Yeah, let's do it now, and then we can implement it into the asteroid class on the next video. So at the minute, if I go up to the edge of the screen and keep my finger pressed, it just goes on and on and on, and I have to press the down key and it has to come back to the edge of the screen, then it comes back onto the screen. Well, that's no good. That's not going to work. So what we want it to do is go off the screen here, come back on the screen here. If it goes off the screen here, come back on the screen here. So that's what this edge function is that you saw. So we'll implement it here, edge. So let's do it with the ship first of all. So okay. So what are we actually saying? Well, let's have a look at the edge function here. We've got 4 if statements. Let's just copy one of them. So if the ship's position plus the radius is less than 0 on the y-axis, so the y-axis goes up and down, the 0 is at the top. So if the ship's position is 0, then that means, or if it's less than 0, that means really it should now be down here. It shouldn't go any more 0 into the minus, it should become here. But if you just do it on 0, then if you can imagine this is halfway up the ship, as soon as that gets to the top of the screen, that there will trigger this function, and that will move the ship to the bottom. But you've still got half the ship here showing on the screen at the top when it moves. That's not really good, and it's not going to look good to see that. It's going to be much better if the ship can go way off the screen by its height, which is its radius, or sorry, half of its height, which is its radius, because it's based on a circle. Once it gets there to the top of the screen and it gets to the height plus the radius, then it can move to the bottom and start again. And that's why we have this plus this radius. So it's not just the position of the ship, it's the position plus the radius. And the same applies to when it reappears at the bottom. It appears at the bottom, which is the height of the screen, plus the radius. So at the bottom of the screen, it appears here plus the radius, so it appears here, but the top of the ship is here now, just a pixel off screen, and as soon as it's moving in, immediately it will start to show up on the screen like that. So that's why this dot radius is a feature here. So that's for the y-axis going up. We also need to do that on keys. We also need to do that going down. So if this position y plus, we need to minus the radius now because we're going the other way. Why is that not letting me click? Minus the radius, and if it's not saying if it's less than 0, we're saying if it's greater than the height, which is the screen height, and then we set it to basically the top of the screen minus the radius. That can obviously be abbreviated to just minus the radius. So that's the x done at both ends, so we can copy these two now and just do the same with the y. Sorry, that's the y I should say. We can just do the same and copy that with the x. So we can say dot x, and rather than width, rather than height, we can say width, and there we are. So now with the ship, if we move the ship off the screen, notice when we go up to the top, it doesn't come to the bottom. It didn't work. Why didn't it work? If this position edge s, radius is less than 0 equals height plus the radius. The radius is 20. Let me load that again. Move up the screen. No. Move across the screen. No. This is obviously not happy. Oh! We commented out the edge function, didn't we? Did we? Oh no. Oh, that's the shot. So what we need to do is set up one for the ship. The capture key presses for the ship, so we'll just put that together down there. Okay, so let's move that up. And there we are. It comes back up off the bottom, and the same goes for either side. You can go down. Yeah, you can go right. Yeah, go left. Yeah, so that's fine. So we can do the same for the shots now. Shots.edge. So we can just copy this code. In fact, we can just copy the whole function, can't we? Copy that, put it into the shot. There's no reason to manually type that out. Shot. So now, if I fire that, and if it goes to the edge, that won't make it. So if I fire one up, and it doesn't work. And I think that's because the shot doesn't have a radius. So you may think, well, let's take radius out of the function, and I actually did that on the one I did the other day, but I'm going to put it in here like this for a reason. We'll see why in a moment. Hopefully these will go through. Yeah, there we go. So you can see as I fire them up off the top, they're coming up off the bottom there, so that's fine. So why have I given it a radius of 0? Because remember with the shot we just draw a point, we don't draw a circle or a triangle or anything like that. And a point doesn't have a radius, it's just by definition a point on the screen. We can obviously make it bigger, but we did that by just increasing the stroke weight. So why have I done that? Why have I added a radius in there? And this is just something I wanted to introduce. I didn't even do this on the one the other day, but it's something called inheritance. See, we're going to have this function on here, on the shot, and we've got it on the ship, and we're going to have it on the asteroid, and it's pretty much the same function. If you go off one of the edges, come on the opposite edge. So rather than write it out 3 times, why not write it once and then just inherit it into the classes that use it? You know, that makes sense, and it's a good introduction to inheritance as well. So the way to do that in the classes is we create a new file, and we'll just call it what would be a common object name for an asteroid, a ship, and a shot. Object. I don't want to call it object in case that messes. That could be a reserved keyword. So we just call it let's just call it obj. Just because I can't think of anything else, let's call it obj. Okay, so we have class obj. Okay, so in here we're going to basically copy the edge function. So let me copy that. In fact, let me cut that out and paste that in here. But obviously we need to change that to obj. And yeah, so then in the ship class we do class ship extends obj. Get rid of the edge method. Get rid of the edge method in here, and class shot extends obj. Now I've never actually done this. Just saw it on a website. Obj is not defined. Okay, so do we need to import? Oh no, we need to add it into the HTML file still. I'm not sure. I thought it would have automatically done that, but no. Okay, so there's an inheritance thing I haven't done right. Let me just see if I can find the website that told me this. Some kind of call to the top level constructor. Super. Okay, so I need to type in super okay, so must call super constructor before derived class. Oh, got to do it with the shot as well. So okay, yeah, okay, so the shot. So here's the thing. Shot, yeah, so that's going off the top, coming on the bottom. Ship going off the top, coming off the bottom. But here's the thing, so both the ship and the shot are going off the edge and coming on the right side, but that code no longer exists in either of them objects. It exists in this one, and all we've done is now brought that into these objects using the extends. So anything I put into the obj by default gets brought into the other classes using the extends. So that's great. That's enough for video 2. We've got our ship class moving around, our shots firing off with lifespans. So let's end video 2 there, and when we come back in video 3 we'll implement the asteroids and the collision detection for the asteroids, and then that'll be it. That'll be the game done. So once again, Subscribe if you like the kind of stuff I'm doing here, and please like the video if this particular video was of use to you, and you find it intriguing, interesting, as it just helps me focus on where I'm putting my resources onto these videos. See you in part 3.